If things keep going the way they are, Dead Rock is probably going to end up being my favorite manga of the year. I swear, each chapter is better than the last. In this one, so much happened that gets me incredibly hyped for the future of this series. I cannot stress enough how excited I am for the future of Dead Rock. In just 3 amazing chapters for the start of a new series that has already gotten me completely invested into this whole story. And this chapter alone just makes me even more excited for the future of this series. Before we get into the actual review, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel. So far, Dead Rock is staying for good on the channel, as I'm going to keep this up for as long as I possibly can, and I'm going to try and make more videos on Dead Rock between chapters, because I'm just that excited for the future of this manga. And I really hope more and more people give this series a shot. And liking and subscribing to the channel will ensure that I am more motivated to keep up the series of videos, and by keeping up these videos, I will be able to help spread the word of this new and incredible series. But all that out of the way, let's get right into this awesome chapter. Chapter 3 of Dead Rock, Classroom Massacre, really stating what we're going to see in this chapter. And yes, there is a literal massacre in this whole chapter. So let's get started, shall we? The chapter starts off in the human world. So we're already getting to see another realm in this series, which is the human realm, which we heard of in the first chapter. So these humans are praying to God, as they haven't seen any water. They're in the middle of a drought, and so they pray to their God. They pray to God to help them in this drought. And so they want mercy, they want prayers. As then a light shines forth, as the character known as God appears, stating that I am God. As the citizens are incredibly happy to witness such a miracle. And they call out the name of Selt, which is revealed to be a god of this world as well. So God begins to say, "My human children, you wish for rain? Behold the work of God," as rain begins to rain down on the village, as now it seems they're saved from the drought. And right as they're praising God for helping them, for giving them the rain that they need, God smirks and says, "This is a blessed rain." As the rain now turns into giant pillars of water that begin to crush everything in God's sight. As we get a full 2-page spread showcasing the sheer devastation of this entire village that God just came and went to and pretended to answer their prayers. As we see the destruction of this whole village with people being crushed under rubble, God, soaked in the rain, states, "Selt, that was a harvest god, right? Sorry, I killed that one a long time ago." As we see all the wreckage and the dead bodies, God with a sinister smile states, "What a waste of time. Playing with humans isn't even good for killing time." And this section showcases the sadistic and cruel nature of the character of God, and also kind of plays into Yakuto's whole theory of God being an imposter, seemingly, because, well, he flat out said in this moment that there was a harvest god called Selt that he killed a long time ago, meaning that there were multiple gods in this world, and it's very possible that he killed all of them so he can be the singular one, which is crazy to think about. I could go over this in a single video at some point as well, just the sheer speculations on God as a character and what his whole shtick is, because this is already very interesting. But after this crazy opening to a chapter, we cut back to the Demon Realm to Dead Rock, as Class F is having Poison Plant class. As others are paying attention or sleeping in class, Yakuto is jotting down notes. And he then casually asks the teacher a question: if God ingested this poison, would that even kill him? As everyone's like, he really went and said that in class, huh? And Mikoto's like, I'm curious too. As the professor just says, don't be foolish. Of course God wouldn't die from mere poison. As Yakuto just says, right, thank you. And the bell rings as class ends. Everyone is talking about the class they just entered in, how they basically sprung more dangerous classes on them in this school, And I just like the interactions between these classmates right now. Yakuto's thinking, so poisoning him is out of the question too, huh? As Hein just says, come on, you didn't really think you were going to kill him that easily, did you? And Yakuto agrees, yeah, it wouldn't be that easy, and that's why I said I needed all your help. Ryan says, I never said I'd help you out. As Freyr just states, hold on, what's that thing on your forehead? As Mikoto reveals that you put a cooling talisman on his body, as since he's technically a corpse, without that thing his body would start to rot and break apart, because yeah, he is literally a zombie, and without something to keep his body from decomposing, we would have a pretty gruesome sight on our hands. And just like how Yakuto's like, hey, can you take that off? I want to try that thing. As, yeah, Ryan just does not want that at all. And Hein states that if you're a corpse, you're immortal in a sense. And I just like his reaction that, I already died once, what the heck is wrong with you? But Mikoto says, no theoretically. I'm controlling him, so if I die, he'll die too. So she goes up to Ryan in his face and says, do your utmost to protect me, Sir Knight. As this is a nice piece of information to showcase her powers, as she is a necromancer, she can control and reanimate corpses, so it makes sense that if she were to die, any corpse that she reanimates would most likely, cease to be a corpse that she controls, to cease to be a zombie. And first of all, I just want to say, can I be Mikoto's bodyguard, please? That feels like kind of a sweet deal, despite her being a necromancer. Anyway, moving along, the classroom door bursts open as a bunch of students come in looking for Class F, as the leader of this group of students states that 2 of their classmates were killed in the cafeteria yesterday, and so they're going to make them pay for it. Yakuto just says, yeah, this dude kind of was responsible for the whole thing, as Yakuto just says, I had nothing to do with it, so please excuse me, I have something I need to take care of, as he begins to run off and not get involved in this fight. As everyone's kind of wondering why the hell he's doing this, Hanni basically just says, shouldn't our class band together? Are you stupid? As Yakuto just has a sparkle in his eyes and says, I leave the rest to you guys. As he then just dashes out of the classroom, not getting involved in this upcoming fight. As he really did leave, and they even bring up that's literally something a hero would say before entering a fight with the final boss. But Freyr just goes on to say, it's not like it matters against these small fries anyway. And would say, I guess we don't really have much of a choice in this, huh? As he goes to look over at Chako and asks if they're going to fight, but she flew the coop. So now everybody's going to have to fight these random students because of what happened the previous day. So Hein gets his sword ready and states that the class I joined turned out to be a real pain. As he lunges forward against these students, slashing them with his ice powers and his sword, as Freyr then begins to attack and punch them with her fire fists. And as the 2 of them are fighting the students, Hanni also jumps up in the air with his hammer and lands a blow on one of the students, cracking the ground. And I think this is a little lightning bolt too, which means it does show that Hanni does have some sort of lightning-based abilities. And Reisen also basically chops up a bunch of other students as well. These random no-name students then begin to panic as they ask Narcissus, I believe that's his name, to help them. And so he says, the botany classroom, this is what we're in, right? My root is a treant, so I can control all of the poisonous plants. As he then uses these poisonous plants to create a poison mist, and now everyone can't breathe in the poison. As right now they have to block their mouths and not breathe anything in, otherwise they're going to be drastically and brutally poisoned. Mikoto then casually asks Reisen to suck up all of the air. And he says that she's crazy, but she just flat out states, it's not like the poison's gonna kill you at all. And he's like, oh yeah, I get what you're saying now. And so he sucks up all the poison in the air so that it doesn't affect anyone else. But after he, breathes all that in, he collapses to the ground as Mikoto just finished her sentence saying, it's going to hurt you just a bit, so enjoy it for a little. As yeah, she could have mentioned that earlier. And so Mikoto gets up and says, who was cruel to my little puppet? As the others on the side are like, you were the one that was so cruel to the guy. As she then has a nice, sinister look, stating, I'd like to thank you properly. That gets me hyped, and I cannot wait to see more of Mikoto, as we then cut to the Dead Rock Chapel of Love and Death. I'm not going to go on and describe this area, because there's a lot to unpack in this singular image of what the chapel is, but Yakuto enters one of the seemingly confessionals of this room, takes out a magic orb, and states that they'll be starting soon. As we see a meeting room that has Dead Rock's top level staff meeting. And it's revealed that Yakuto is watching through the eyes of Maxwell. So, as we established previously, Maxwell died, but he's a golem, so they basically replaced his head and now they're controlling his body for their own purposes. And Yakuto is using this immediately by snooping in on a meeting with Deadrock's top brass, which is very clever, as this is a good way to get intel on the rest of the teachers, and a good way to look for information, as I like Yakuto's kind of, sadistic look as he's just like ecstatic that he's getting this opportunity. And so the meeting begins in this meeting room as they begin to discuss Class F, as we then begin to be seen and introduced to the 4 demon teachers. Doesn't sound super badass in terms of name, but we'll go with that. The 4 demon teachers. And we see the first one, Boltagar, and says that they've got a real pep. And his root is the Kraken. So I'm liking how with every introduction of characters, we're going to be getting their roots. So I'm excited to see all of the different characters that we'll see with the roots. Yakuto states that Boltagar is a Kraken and one of the 4 demon teachers, and he's in charge of Deadrock's Northern Ocean area. We then see Lilith, another one of the 4 demon teachers, who is a succubus. As she says, there are plenty of cuties in that class as well. And it's also revealed that Lilith is in charge of the chapel that Yakuto is spying on them in right now. The one leading the meeting states that they killed 2 students on their first day, and the ogre head chef as well. So this 100% confirms that Yakuto did actually kill the head chef in the previous chapter. I wasn't 100% sure based on the blow, but 100% confirmed, he killed the head chef. As we then get introduced to the 3rd of the 4 demon teachers, who is Lausen, whose root is Mephisto, a demon from multiple terms of demonology and even biblical stuff. So really cool, and I'm honestly kind of excited to see this guy because he's very excited to have a fiery duel, and Yakuto goes on to state that he's probably the best fighter out of all of these teachers. And he's in charge of a place called the Death Arena. And we then meet the final of the 4 demon teachers, who is the vice principal, Bren, whose root is a Gigant, so I'd say a Titan, more or less, a Titan creature. As he says that Lausen has killed countless students under the pretext of dueling, and he asks for Lausen to take it easy on the new students this year. And the vice principal is there as well, and Yakuto says that he has to do something about these 4 teachers before he has any chance with God. As Lausen begins to gleefully say, we can overlook the deaths of a couple of students, as we then see a 2-page spread of Class F over the corpses of an entire class that came to pick a fight with them, as Lausen's like, we can overlook a couple of deaths, it's not like they massacred an entire class, as we then see a 2-page spread with that exact situation happening. I love the comedic juxtaposition of them just being like, okay, they'll kill a few students, it'll happen, it's how Deadrock works. It's not like they're not going to kill an entire classroom, that'd be crazy. As we immediately smash cut to the whole class coming to pick a fight with them, dead on the ground, with not even a scratch on our main cast, as they kind of look really badass as they just took out an enemy army. And so they tell the leader of this class that he's out of shoulders and ask what he wants to do now. Mikoto walks over, stating that there are so many corpses, as she begins to walk on the blood, calling out, now awaken as my servants. As the dead bodies of all these people now rise from their death as zombie minions for Mikoto, and she lunges them at this man, as Narcissist is now attacked and brutally devoured by an army of zombies. And Freyr is like, ugh. Which, yes, ugh, indeed. As we then cut back to the meeting room, as someone appears right in the middle. To everyone's shock, as it is the principal, God, as they ask where he's been. And Yakuto looks over and sees him, God, as we get 2 panels of a flashback for Yakuto as he is just enraged at just seeing God appear before his eyes. Technically, through the visual medium of Maxwell. But either way, we get a flashback of a young Yakuto in the ruins of a town with blood everywhere, with his hands trembling and blood dripping down his face. So my theory of Yakuto being a survivor of the dragons being destroyed and God having something to do with it seems to have been slightly confirmed, or at least we're being led in that direction. And with how we saw at the beginning of this chapter that God literally massacred an entire village for shits and giggles, this kind of lines up, and this gets me very hyped up, because Yakuto is definitely out in this for revenge. And a lot of revenge stories are always good, but how they're executed is the main meat of how good a revenge story can actually be. God goes over to Maxwell and states that Class F is his, right? And Maxwell states, "Yes, sir. I seem to have a lot of problem children. They're quite a handful." As God casually walks up to Maxwell's face, as, Yakuto is controlling him, stares Maxwell in the eye, shocking and concerning Yakuto, as God then pokes out both of Maxwell's eyes, shocking Yakuto, as he then begins to panic, as he seems to realize and think that he's been caught. He stumbles out of the chapel, just panting and breathing heavily, as someone comes over, undoes his sleeve, as we see this darkness, this dark bruise creeping up on his arm. As we see the cat girl from the previous chapter say to Yakuto that it's spreading pretty far. So my idea of that she was going to be introduced and slowly integrated into the main cast seems to be right, which I'm glad that happened very quickly, but this leads into more. As Yakuto's asking who she is, as the last panel is her stating to Yakuto that this means he doesn't have much time left, ending the chapter. So, once more, Dead Rock, another crazy chapter. We see God massacre an entire village that wanted to pray for salvation, for shits and giggles. We then see Yakuto and everyone attending class, Yakuto going off to eavesdrop and spy on the top brass of Dead Rock to collect information. We get introduced to the 4 demon teachers who are going to be the main obstacle our cast is going to have to battle against, leading up to a confrontation with God. We have the main class just utterly destroying some randos that just decided to pick a fight with them, to just showcase how badass they are, that they didn't have any trouble with a bunch of these random students showing up. And lastly, at the end of the chapter, with a brief snippet of Yakuto's past and revealing that Yakuto has something going on with his body and that he doesn't have much time left, I assume, to live. And cute cat girl comes in, basically interacting with Yakuto. And that ends the chapter, and I really enjoyed this. A lot of plot progression, a bit more world building, and the core setup of who the antagonists of the story are. And more insight as to why Yakuto is at Dead Rock and has such a grudge against God, as it seems it's revenge for, I assume, what happened to the dragons. We see the main cast doing something cool, and new character seemingly is about to be integrated into the main cast, at least gradually, and she might know something more about Yakuto. And I am nothing but excited and hyped for the future of this series. Each chapter is better than the last. We learn something new. We get cool fights, and I feel like we're building up to a real confrontation to battle against the top brass of Dead Rock. And I just like how God saw through Yakuto's deception, seemingly, and Yakuto just panting and panicking that he's been found out and he's not sure what to do. And I'm curious to see how that plot point is going to go on. I feel like God is probably just going to let things go as they are, just to see how things turn out. Probably because he's bored, but who knows? We don't fully know what God is and what his deal is. So we still have a bunch of questions to ask, and I am waiting for these answers, just like the rest of you guys. But what did you think of this chapter? How do you feel about Dead Rock in these opening chapters? Is it great? Is it okay? Is it overhyped? Do you see it doing very well as time goes on, despite it being a limited series? And what do you think is happening with Yakuto, his past, and God? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel, and makes me more and more excited to make more content on all the series that we all love. Well, that's it and done. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.